New commitment for Notre Dame today in the 2024 class, an offensive line pledge for new offensive line coach Joe Rudolph. We're going to break down this new Irish commitment. Myself and Tim Hyde here. Please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our channel if you have not done so yet. You can head over to blueandgold.com for so much more on this news and other Fighting Irish football updates. So, Tim, the new commitment is Anthonie Knapp. He is out of Roswell, Georgia, big time program in the Peach State. Someone who kind of blew up more so in the past couple months. I'd say a modest offer list. Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Penn State, just a few of the schools that had offered him. NC State, Missouri, Wake Forest, some of the others, Indiana. When Notre Dame lands this commitment, Tim, what's your initial reaction?
Well, my initial reaction was a Georgia kid, so I had to get out the old blue and gold yearbooks and start hunting down the history of some Georgia linemen. And believe it or not, they for the old timers like myself, you got to go back to Lou Holtz in the early '90s. They had Dusty Ziegler, Ty Willingham signed Darren Mitchell, and during the Weiss years, in Weiss's first class, they got Paul Duncan. Ziegler was an absolute stud for Holtz for a couple of years. Duncan started a few years as well, and Mitchell got a few games during the Willingham years. But that was a little shock because you think Notre Dame linemen are thinking Midwest, Pennsylvania, these types of guys that they tend to hunt down. So going down in the Deep South was really shocking. And then obviously the background, what he has with Joe Rudolph, who obviously recruited him and got on Google there and found some old articles from last year. And Rudolph offered him at a camp at Tech, worked him out, really liked him. And obviously I trust Joe Rudolph. He's got a great background. You start looking at all these 3 stars that he signed at Wisconsin, all Big Ten, go to the NFL. Sometimes you got to put your trust in him. And an offer list is not massive. Obviously, Georgia doesn't have SEC offers, but there's one on there I like, and that's Penn State. I think that offensive line coach does a great job recruiting and offering guys from his history the last couple of years. But really good athlete. He was first team All-State and fantastic film.
Yeah, there's another school on his offer list that's pretty good with offensive lineman. Yeah, Notre Dame. So yeah, I think that one's notable as well. So as you pop on the film, Tim plays tackle at the high school level. He's not the biggest guy, but just in terms of the height and length. But what do you see on his film? I know that you called him for the lack of a better term, he's a jerk, and that's a good term when you're talking about an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Joe Moore Award. Some of their things that they look for, 3 factors: strike, leverage, and finish. And he definitely has a strike. He has a punch that is violent as could be. Leverage, I think it's right here on an outside zone where he's working to get to that outside shoulder. You see a lot of this on his film where his feet do not stop, which goes down to his finish. Pancake after pancake on these things where it's a nastiness. He's a bully. He's going to get after you. His assignment, whoever it is, the block, I'm just going to attack you. One of the things I really like, I've watched his film a handful of times since I found out he was going to be visiting, read about him and Joe Rudolph's background. I had a feeling that you'd be calling me, Mike, saying, hey, they're going to get this guy, Tim. And it is his footwork, outstanding feet. The way he, like right there, that is outstanding left tackle, kick step, getting to the point of attack right there. You see a lot of this in the film. Really good hand punch. And one of the things I like with him is his counter. He always has a second punch. He doesn't just hit and slide and grab with guys. He's hitting you on your second step. So fantastic film. Very good athlete. And I know Notre Dame fans are going to be like, oh, he's a 3-star. You start comparing him to some of the past 3 stars that they've signed the last few years. Athletically, I would put him number 1 over Ashton Craig, Pat Coogan. Obviously, they had Tarek, and he's much more athletic than Sam Pendleton in my view with his athleticism. So, and Joe Otting obviously was a true guard. You're looking at that Harry Heastan model we've talked about in our show a week ago on recruiting tackles. He's bringing that left tackle, whether he grows inside, whatever position it is. He's played on an island. He's taken that responsibility of playing on that edge. And I like this kid. I think he's one of those hidden gems that you're talking about, Mike.
All right, so Tim, the interesting thing with him is when you watch him on film and just like his athletic traits, it says tackle, but his
Yes.
size says guard. It just for me, the read here is that Joe Rudolph recruited him at Virginia Tech, loved him, wanted him at Notre Dame, and get him in here and kind of figure out the position later. Maybe he grows an inch or two, and now you're talking about 6'5", 6'6" guy. You can definitely play tackle, but at 6'4", he's about 270.
Mhm.
He's just going into his senior year of high school. He's got plenty of time to grow, but like his body type seems to lean guard or center, but the size is tackle. Do you agree with me there, Tim?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, he's not, when you think Notre Dame tackles, we're thinking these 6'6", 6'7" guys, these big, long, lean guys that they've had over the years. Can he play at 6'4", offensive tackle? Zach Martin did it. So, I mean, one of the best of all time, obviously. But yeah, I mean, you never know. That goes back to your point of get him on campus. He's got a lot of the amazing traits of just physical, his finish, good foot. I mean, there's so many things he's going to bring that are just natural, showing where he could play right away. Like that one right there, steps down to the B gap, kicks back out to the C. A lot of this in his film. Great footwork of being. There's another one right here, coming off blocks and attacking a guy. So there's a lot of these things in there. And yeah, you could say he's a guard, which has a tendency. I know a lot of fans will probably talk about who's going to be playing tackle for Notre Dame, especially if they lose, Fisher or Alt. But that goes back to a couple of the guys they have visited, or excuse me, of signed the last few years, with Jagasaw, and even going back. I'm going to be surprised if Tosh Baker stays for 2 years. Just, when you lose that COVID year of 2020, he's
Right.
got really 2 years of eligibility after this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays. So the biggie in this class, Mike, and we'll talk about it on our shows and whatnot, is who are going to be the tackles. They
Yeah.
need to solidify probably 2 tackles, sign 4 in this class, and but they need to get 2 elite, true offensive tackles to develop here over the 24 and 25 seasons.
Yeah, what's really interesting is that Notre Dame does, have 2 offensive line commits, and I'd been hearing that Notre Dame was likely going to take 3 total. And the guys, the sub numbers are always subject to change, but Peter Jones, out of Pennsylvania, is another offensive line committed for the Irish. 6'5", 285, definitely projects as an inside guy. See the rankings there. The on 3 industry rank him as the number 299 overall player, number 22 interior offensive lineman. So yeah, I do think that the Knapp commitment kind of says, yeah, no, Notre Dame's trending towards taking 4 offensive linemen, but again, this is all subject to change. Yeah, Tim, should we just kind of look at the class? Hovering right around 10 commitments. We've talked about this a good bit. That you think the 24 class will be better than 2023. What are kind of your feelings about? Look, it's March, it's
Yeah,
still early, but what are your kind of thoughts about how this class is shaping up early for the Irish?
it's good football players right there. There's a lot of really good football players, and I guess I'm more, bullish on the guys that I feel are going to, come ahead of them in the next couple months. Notre Dame has so many guys, which you've been writing about like crazy on the Blue and Gold site. Is there's so many good football players that have visited. They're going to land these guys. There's so many blue chip defensive linemen coming between now, and they've already got official visits with some elite football players, especially on the D line. Some of the linebackers that are going to be coming. They're probably, you've been writing about one more corner. What are they going to do at safety? Wide receiver, they got, which I called it a year ago when we talked about Williams, an SEC wide receiver. They're probably going to get 2 more, I feel, elite wide receivers there. Running back, they're still strong on. This is going to be a 25-man class, I think, when it's all said and done. That's just going to stockpile another blue chip 70 percentile rate. I just feel they're going to hit that. I really do. And I know a lot of people been a little flustered with some of the offers and whatnot. And, they're not getting enough top 100 guys. I really feel like this is going to be a heck of a football class when it's all said and done. The keys, obviously, with the O-line, as we're talking tonight, is tackles. I didn't mention Emil Wagner, who's
Right.
obviously already second team. So there's another one on top of Jagasaw, Tosh Baker with 2 more years. So there is some depth there, But the tackles that they've offered, they need to get two of these guys to go with Jones and obviously Knapp here to close out this class.
Another thing for folks worried about the tackle depth, it's Notre Dame. Just think about
Right.
what Notre Dame could do in the portal. So I'm not too worried about that for the Fighting Irish. They can go
You
get
know,
the top offensive tackle in the portal every single year.
no, and you know what, Mike, and these are athletes. Every single one of these guys have been an offensive tackle. So just because they're not sick, just because they don't look like Joe Alt and Blake Fisher, and they're not these monsters on the edges, doesn't mean they can't play offensive tackle. Notre Dame has had plenty of guys that have been 6'4" play offensive tackle. So do they look like tackles? Some, like even Peter Jones, his junior film is way better than his sophomore film. He's really improved with his footwork. But some of these tackles, they are recruiting. Sprague being one of my favorite ones out of Rockhurst High in Missouri. I just love that guy. Those are your Joe Alt ones, your 6'7" type frames. But there's a lot of athletes, and that's one thing Notre Dame has recruited is athletes.
All right, so that's the big news. Anthonie Knapp out of Roswell, Georgia, committing to Notre Dame in the 2024 class. If you like this news, or if you don't like it, please do go ahead and hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our channel, of course, for more content, and go to blueandgold.com for more information on the commitment. Appreciate you folks for watching, and as always, we'll catch you next time.